So I am here to talk about the new Devil May Cry anime on Netflix, produced by Adi Shankar, who did the Castlevania Netflix series. And I figured I would do this review talking about each individual episode, because that way it'll make it a little bit more fun to dive into. And throughout the course of the video, I really won't know what's coming up, so I might contradict myself and I might go back and forth on a few theories, ideas, and points. And I just feel like that would be a more fun, more extensive way to do the video. So this is, of course, going to be filled with spoilers, because I'm going to talk about each individual episode. I'm going to talk about things I like, things I didn't like. This is coming from a pretty big fan of the video games. I'm not saying I know every single minute little detail of the lore, but I've played all of the games plenty of times, and I absolutely love the series, and I've loved it for the last 20-some years, playing it as a teenager all the way up into my 30s now. But besides that, I've been a fan of Devil May Cry for a very, very long time. I just did a review of all the video games, so I'll link that down below for you guys to check out. But here, I'm going to talk about the anime. And I was a little bit nervous before it was coming out, just because a couple of the trailers and a couple of the clips, I wasn't exactly sure. I didn't know if I was going to vibe with the art style. And some of the clips that they put out of Dante just really threw me off for a couple of reasons. I thought the humor was a little strange. And also, look, I love Johnny Young Bosch. I think he's an amazing voice actor. He's voiced so many iconic characters. Vash the Stampede, Ichigo. You know, he has just been around forever. He's the Black Ranger, you know, the second Black Ranger from Power Rangers. I'll always remember as a kid. So, like, I'm a Johnny Young Bosch fan, all right? But when it comes to Devil May Cry, he already voices a character in that video game series named Nero. Now, Nero doesn't show up till Devil May Cry 4, but I very much associate his voice with Nero. So hearing his voice come out of Dante takes a lot of adjustment, and that's no slight against his talent as a voice actor. It's just coming from a fan of Devil May Cry. When I hear Johnny Young Bosch's voice, because he has a very distinct, iconic voice, I just picture Nero. So I'm having to adjust that in my head to him playing Dante. And having said that, after watching the first episode, I think by the end of the episode, I'm a little bit more on board with it. I think that they are getting the mannerisms and characterization of Dante, at least to a degree. I mean, it's only one episode. That first original clip where he saves the girl in the alleyway, that's what threw me off. And in the episode, that's the only part that threw me off. And after that, it starts to get a lot more standard Dante. So I was feeling it a little bit more after that scene. And like I said, I think he's a great voice actor. So we'll see where that goes moving forward. Also, this series is going to have its own storyline. It's not following the games, although the basic backstory is the same. And I think if I had any gripe about the first episode, really, it's that there's a lot of exposition, but you kind of have to have that, because you got to assume that people are coming into this anime without playing any of the games, and they don't know who Dante or Sparta or Mundus or any of these characters are. So it's like, okay, you gotta have it. But the thing that I didn't like is that all of the exposition is done by these military characters. DarkCon, I think, is the name of the organization, where they are trying to make sure that the demon world stays separate from the human world. In the video games, they never really deal with that aspect. Like, they never deal with the military or the governmental aspect of what's going on. I mean, I'm sure that stuff is happening because crazy shit happens in the game, but you never really see it. It's never a focus of the story. So having a lot of focus on the military side of things, it felt a little off. It just felt a little opposite of Devil May Cry, but it's only the first episode, so I'm sure they're going to weave it in an interesting way. And my theory, just watching one episode so far, is they mentioned that demons can possess people, like powerful demons that can't cross over into the human world can possess humans, right? So my theory as of episode 1 is that one of the military characters might be a powerful demon in disguise possessing a human, might even be Mundus. I don't know. The real antagonist that we're introduced to in the first episode is this Bunny Man, which I don't think he has a name, or I don't remember it being spoken. But in the very beginning, what I liked is that a bunch of mercenaries infiltrate this place to get these treasures, and the guards in the castle are dressed in like the puppet suits that the enemies that you fight in the first Devil May Cry game wear, so I thought that was cool. And I kind of thought they were going to turn into the puppet monsters. They do not. They all get killed. But the Bunny Man shows up, and he's just this bunny demon dressed very sophisticatedly, and he goes to get Sparta's sword, which in this they explain that Sparta's sword is what was used to seal off the demon and human worlds, and so there's obviously some plot probably to open the gateway between the demon and human world, and with that you also need the amulets that Dante and Virgil have. So there is a lot to set up here. You know, there's a lot to set up. We don't really know anything about Dante yet. We don't know his backstory. We don't know. Virgil shows up for a second, and you're thinking like, okay, episode 1, fine. But it's actually a shape-shifting demon that was kind of like doing it to taunt Dante. So I thought that was a good little tease. And what I also liked is that the guns Dante was using are clearly not his signature guns from the games, Ebony and Ivory, and there's a point in the episode where he uses the gun so much they literally break in his hand. So I'm assuming at some point in the series he's going to get Ebony and Ivory. So yeah, episode 1 ends with the military characters knowing about Dante's existence, and they're going to send a team after him, and that's going to be episode 2. So as of right now, I am on board. I like it. I think the animation is good so far for Netflix. You know what I mean? It's good. Like it's on par with Castlevania. So yeah, I'm going to dive into episode 2, and I'll be right back to talk about that with you guys. All right, episode 2, I can't lie to you guys, I'm vibing with it. I'm digging this. Episode 2 was way better than episode 1, in my opinion, and much better for the characterization of Dante. I liked what was happening in this episode. It introduces us to Lady, and this is the only one I'm a little bit 50-50 on. Obviously, as the show goes on, I'm sure things will change, but the introduction of Lady here is very different than the game. She's part of this demon hunting military group that is going in to get Dante's necklace, and she's very different. She still has kind of the edge to her that she has in the games, but it's a little bit, I don't know, a little bit different, a little bit more standard, I guess. I don't really know the word I'm trying to use for it, but she seems like your typical kind of badass demon hunter character, whereas when she's introduced in Devil May Cry 3, I feel a little bit more mystery to her, a little bit more intrigue. I don't know, but again, it's just the first introduction to her, and I'm sure things will change over time. Also very strange to see her in like the full military outfit. I'm used to seeing her in like a skirt with a giant weapon, so getting used to it. Having said that, though, I like everything that they did here with Dante. I love the battle sequence with the mercenary team coming into, it's not really his, it's not like the Devil May Cry, you know, establishment. It's sort of more of just like a general apartment, but there's so many different artifacts in there that were in Devil May Cry 3, like the jukebox looks the same, and he uses the pool table with all the pool balls hitting everybody just like in Devil May Cry 3. And the fight sequence was great. I thought the animation was done really, really well. He does pull out the rebellion, starts using that. And the things about Dante that I think work very well are, you know, his confidence, but also kind of the casual laid back nature of him. But then there are particular things that he cares a lot about, like, for instance, the necklace that he doesn't want to be stolen, but he is having the time of his life when he slays demons. He is having the time of his life when he's fighting these mercenaries, and that's sort of what I wanted to get out of Dante. There's the fact that he enjoys what he does, right? Like, he is not necessarily, he is a bit of a tormented character, but he is also a character that just is lives and thrives within that combat scenario, you know? So I'm glad that they were able to capture that. By the way, the soundtrack so far has been great. Using Limp Bizkit as the opening song, I when I first saw that, because they released that weeks ago, I literally thought it was a joke, but now I've come to truly embrace it. I've come to truly love it, and now it's just like my millennial mind is satisfied blending these, you know, early mid-2000s things together. Devil May Cry, Limp Bizkit just makes sense, because I always associate rock and heavy metal with Devil May Cry. Devil May Cry even has its own, you know, specific rock songs that were made for it that play during the game when you're beating the shit out of demons. And speaking of music, I also want to say I like the rendition of the Devil's Never Cry song in the credits very cool, very good ending credits, and also typical anime. You know, the opening credits is very bombastic and in your face, and the ending credits is more somber and makes you want to sit outside in the middle of the night and reflect on your life. So they got that going for them. I also like the moment where they incorporated the Street Fighter 2 arcade game, and it also makes me wonder, Street Fighter 2 is also Capcom, and so far they've done Castlevania and Devil May Cry. I wonder if it's a tease for like an upcoming, you know, maybe Street Fighter is what Adi Shankar wants to work on next. Who knows? But when Dante faces Lady, I liked what they did here because this is how she fights in the games. Like she drops bombs, you know, she runs away. Like she's not not able to fight Dante, but she has all of this various weaponry and tricks of the trade in order to kind of make it more difficult for him to take her down, where she'll drop a bomb and she'll run away and then she'll send something else after him. And in this anime, she has like the demon, these bullets that specifically work on demon blood, but it seems like Dante's human blood kind of counteracts that. And essentially the only thing she can do is lure him into a trap, which she does at the end of the episode. She's able to take the amulet, puts him out of commission, locks him in the ban. Her group of demon fighters of the mercenaries are what's left. Everyone else is taken care of. And moving on into episode 3. So yeah, episode 2, I liked it quite a bit. Few little nitpicks here and there, but overall really enjoyed it. Gonna go on to episode 3. I don't know why it took me until episode 3 to realize the vice president is voiced by Kevin Conroy. Just hit me. I did not recognize his voice at all in the first episode, but this episode definitely sounded like him. Rest in peace to the legend. I didn't know he was going to be in this show, so that's another cool surprise, and also makes me suspect that he might be a little bit more than he's letting on. But I guess as far as the series is going at this point, by episode 3, it's probably likely that the bunny man is Mundus, and he's using the bunny in order to exist in the human world because he would be too powerful to come over just on his own. He had a device that was attached to his chest, so I'm assuming that's who this is, especially, and all right, maybe I'm going crazy, maybe this is a different character, but in this episode, Dante and everybody gets attacked. They're in the truck that's going across the highway. They get attacked by a bunch of random bosses in the Devil May Cry lore, and am I crazy, but it's one of them Nilo Angelo. Like one of them, and this is spoilers, I'm assuming if you're watching this, you know Devil May Cry to some degree. So this is Virgil, right? This is Virgil under the control of Mundus. Like, I'm assuming that's who that character was. Maybe there's another boss that I don't remember that looks similar, but it looked like him. It wasn't speaking. I'm assuming it's him. We also see, I can't remember her name, but she's one of the bosses from part 4, the giant like plant snake lady, and also Agni and Rudra, which are my favorite weapon in Devil May Cry 3, is that you get to use their swords. One is fire, one is ice. You can combine them together, do a lot of really cool shit. So awesome to see all of these characters. Obviously, I don't know where the story's going. I don't know this because this is not the game story, so this is all different, but just... All right, sometimes it's okay to be a little bit of a fanboy, right? Like sometimes it's cool just to see these characters portrayed in a new format, you know, 20 years later, you get to see them in an anime. It's just cool to see them, right? And a lot of great fun things are happening here. Like Dante gets loose. You know, they start playing Last Resort by Papa Roach as they're doing this highway chase fight scene. I don't know, man. It's just cool. And that's what Devil May Cry is. Like, it's just cool. Like, it's just fun. It's just ridiculous. It's over the top. It also does have heart. It does have story, but it's just fun. And that's the main thing that they need to get across in this anime, is just make it fun. And the highway scene was fun. As far as Dante, he was with the motorcycle, he was using that as a weapon, which you know, is also from part 5, so that was really cool to see. And it seems like this bunny man character, who I'm assuming is Mundus in disguise, has both of the amulets, but probably needs Dante and Virgil in order to awaken them. So he's trying to get Dante to unleash the Devil Trigger, which he has not yet. And the thing that is strange here, too, is that in this anime canon, Dante is not convinced that he's a demon, even though obviously, obviously he is. And that is a plot point of the DMC Devil May Cry reboot game, which I'm not really a fan of. But if that's the only, lore, if that's the only tidbit they take from that game, all right, fine, whatever. I guess for whatever reason, Dante is not aware that he's half demon and doesn't know that his father is Sparta. So we got that to handle in the future. But whatever the case, yeah, it seems like he wasn't able to unlock the Devil Trigger just yet, and because of the chip that they put into his head in the last episode, he wasn't able to make his way all the way to the Bunny Man to fight him. So that's going to be a problem. Had a lot of fun with this episode. It was really cool to see all the cameos. Good fight scene. Moving on to episode 4. Oh, and before I forget, there was a quick line of dialogue about Dante having a previous job in Raccoon City. A little nod to Resident Evil, and of course, as DMC fans know, the original Devil May Cry was going to be a Resident Evil game, and then turned into Devil May Cry. I don't think they're meant to be, actually in the same universe. I think it's just a nod to that, but pretty fun nonetheless. Nice little shout out. Okay, with episode 4, this one was pretty straightforward. I don't really have a whole lot to say about it, but it does delve into backstory of Dante and of Lady. There was actually a Lady backstory in the last episode, forgot to talk about, and it's interesting because there's a real big gap, at least as far as I remember, of her upbringing. Now, her father becomes an antagonist in one of the games, but it seems like here they're attacked by a demon and he becomes obsessed with the idea of demons, delving into them, researching them, and that is, of course, how he probably leads his way to his desire for power. And it really messed with Lady as a little girl, believing in these demons that she saw. Nobody believes her father. Her father's slowly going more and more mentally insane, trying to discover this. And of course, that's what led her to becoming this demon hunting mercenary that she ultimately became, hating all demons. There is a moment in this episode where her entire band of mercenaries is killed off by some of the Devil May Cry bosses here. And I knew this was going to happen because it's like, who are all of these characters, right? Like, we're not going to have individual storylines and backgrounds and progression for all of them. It really felt like when they were introduced that Lady is our main character and all the rest are going to be dispatched. And that happens here. And Lady finds herself being harbored by this demon family, sort of realizing for the first time that there can be different types of demons, that not all of them are necessarily inherently evil. It's just another dimension, another, race of beings, right? And so there's this family that is very similar, sort of a parallel to her family being attacked. The way that she was attacked by demons, they have been attacked by her mercenary band. And so there's this, confliction within her of whether or not to save them, who to believe, who to trust, and just generally her worldview is just being turned upside down. Then on the Dante side, he is up in an airplane with the vice president and also his little buddy that's been around since the first episode. I keep forgetting his name. I don't know. He's not in the games, but he's just a little comic relief character. And this is all a ploy for the Bunny Man to get Dante to unlock his Devil Trigger, which he does a little bit in this episode, just his arm, really, which is, I don't know if that was a nod or reference to Nero, but anyways, he's got it, like, sort of unlocked. Like, we're not there yet. We're not on full, full unabridged transformation. We're just like, yeah, I got a demon arm. But he fights against Agni and Rudra a little bit, and I really wanted him to get the swords. He gets one sword, but I want him to get both because, like I said, that is my favorite weapon in all of the games, I think. So, yeah, I'm excited to see what happens next. They wanted Dante to unlock his Devil Trigger. That is part of the plan that this bunny character wants to have happen, but he doesn't get there all the way, and they do blow up the plane. So a portion of the plane is blown open, and all of the people in it are just flying out into the air, and we end with a cliffhanger with basically everybody falling to their doom. I'm assuming the Devil Trigger will activate because Dante can fly, but he can't really save everybody at once. Or can he? I don't know. We're going to see what happens. Overall, pretty solid episode. Episode 2 and 3 were way better, but, you know, we're kind of in the middle now. There's 8 episodes in total, so let me get right into episode 5. Okay, so for episode 5, of course, Dante is able to save everybody, managing to throw parachutes on a number of them, and then, of course, he does activate his devil trigger for the first time. Now, I don't love the design of the devil trigger Dante form in this anime. It might change because there is different variations of it, but I'm not going to let that ruin my enjoyment of the series. Just overall first impression of the design choice. I don't know. There's something about it I don't love. I can't really put it into words. Just something about it didn't feel big enough, if that made sense. Like, it just doesn't feel like it has enough presence to it. But that aside, I thought the sequence worked really, really well. And counteracting that, there is all the stuff happening with Lady. She is able to take a few of the demons out and ends up reuniting with Dante at the end of the episode, where basically the biggest tragedy happens, where we have introduced the idea that there are some demons that are basically refugees that have nothing to do with the overall plot that's happening, and they just want peace and solace for their own lives. And Lady makes a promise to them that they will escort them out of there and essentially, you know, get them out of danger. And on the flip side of that, the vice president character, who I'm going back and forth on, you know, I didn't like him in the first episode. I mean, he might turn out to be a good character, but in the first episode, I really thought he might be a demon in disguise. But as time has gone on, he's talking more and more about God and the Lord, and seems to be very anti-demon, although he wants Dante on his side. But when it comes to them rescuing these demon refugees, he's like, no, they're demons, kill them. And he makes an executive order that nobody can deny, or nobody chooses to deny. And they do it. You know, I'm going to give the anime credit. Like, they don't pull any punches here, and they actually massacre all of these demon families, children alike. And yeah, it's a pretty dark scene. I am glad that they went there, you know, because I feel like in a series like this, you do want to add some stakes. You do want to add some actual tragedy. Like, you want things to feel like they have weight to them, like they actually matter. And so doing this was dark, but it was something that needed to be done in the story. And the last demon that was left alive, the shapeshifter, sees all of this happen, and basically, I'm assuming, sacrifices himself. Like, he blows up the entire building with him in it to get back at all of these soldiers. And so everybody dies. Everybody except Dante and Lady and the people that weren't there. So yeah, big body count episode as far as that goes. Now, we have 3 episodes left. Seems like Dante is going to make his way towards the Bunny Man to face him down. Who he is, I don't know. Nilo Angelo is still out there, which I'm still assuming that's who that character is supposed to be. So let's dive right into it and see where else it goes. Wow. Who would have thought the best episode of this show would not feature Dante? Episode 6 of Devil May Cry is fucking incredible. This is a great episode. The storytelling, the emotion, the parallel journey of these characters, double sides of the same coin. The theme of this episode is abuse. That's what it is. So we have the backstory of Lady, the full backstory of Lady, and the backstory of the Bunny Man, who is revealed to be a human, actually. So there's a twist for you. We have their childhoods that are played parallel to us. There is almost no dialogue in this episode whatsoever until the very end. It is told with just pure visual imagery and music. Great placement of the songs, including the Evanescence Afterlife song that was made specifically for this anime. Great use of it in this episode. But essentially, we have the childhoods of Lady and the childhood of this Bunny Man, who was a human, went to a foster home at a young age, and just dealt with a abusive family. He had older brothers, assumingly, that just fucked with him the entire time. You know, his mother is shown like slapping the shit out of him. And his only solace, sorry, I'm getting a little emotional. His only, I hate like childhood abuse, man. It's one of the things that drives me the most crazy in this world. But His only solace is really this Alice in Wonderland book. And as soon as you see that, you know immediately, like, yeah, that's going to be the bunny man, right? Like, obviously. And a portal opens up, and just like Alice going into Wonderland, he goes into his Wonderland, which happens to be the demon realm. And what is the difference at that age, you know? And he ends up befriending a group of the refugee demons being rescued. And the animation style of the demon realm is done very much like an Alice in Wonderland style. It's a different animation style than the rest of the series. It actually reminded me a lot of, if you ever saw the anime Ranking of Kings, it kind of reminded me of that art style. And he has an entire life. He essentially grows up in this demon realm and becomes an adult, kind of seeing things through their eyes. So even though he's not a demon himself, he's seeing things the way that they do and seeing what they have to offer, and it's pretty much the same. You know, it's like on the human side, we have people that are good with good hearts, and then we also have authority figures that beat us down at every turn, and that's kind of the same way it exists within the demon realm, where there are good families just trying to survive, and then there are those with power that use that power to subjugate and dominate everything else. Same thing exists in the human side. Now, on the human side, we see Lady kind of observing her father getting more and more distant as he, descends into trying to discover all that he can about demons, right? And her worldview is essentially demons are evil because they were attacked. It's taking away her father from her. And so she grows up seeing them as the enemy. And I'm glad that they went this way with her father, because that's essentially the lore of the games, is that he gets obsessed with demonkind and becomes evil himself. In this episode, we see him kill Lady's mom, and the entire house burns down. So it's this loss of innocence on both sides, where on Lady's side, you see her father go insane, the house burns down, like her childhood is torn away from her. The same way the Bunnyman character goes into the demon realm, learns about these creatures and their plight and all of the horrible things that are happening to them, and he burns the Alice in Wonderland book because it is this coming of age, like this is real to him, and the story is just a story. This is not Wonderland, this is a hellscape, and it's this loss of innocence on both sides. And they eventually meet up much later in life, as the Bunnyman is trying to get the refugees to the human world so that they can be safe from what's attacking them, not realizing that as soon as he comes to the human world, now Lady has joined this entire mercenary group of demon hunters, and they are hunting the demons that he's trying to save. So as soon as he comes over into the human world, they are at odds. They've had two completely different upbringings, where he's been trying to save these people. Lady has, declared her entire life's mission to killing all of them, and they butt heads, and they have no time to talk it out because there are evil demons that are also coming, and it just destroys everything. So the giant, kaiju evil demon comes through, massive gunfire breaks out, everybody dies except for this guy that would become the Bunnyman. So I'm assuming his plan for opening the gateway in which he wants to do is sort of combining both these worlds, in which to him, he would see no difference between. There's no point in separating the demon and human world, because the human world is just as corrupt and destructive, and may as well just throw it into chaos and have a free-for-all. That's where I'm assuming it's going, but I'm not really sure. Now, Lady has kind of come around to see that not every single person from the demon realm is evil incarnate, and so it'll be interesting to see where that goes. But as far as the presentation and story of this episode, I thought it was really great. This is something that could be watched on its own out of context of Devil May Cry. Really heartbreaking. Love the visual storytelling. Love the differences in animation style with fantasy and, what's the real world in the story. All of it was well done. Like, beautiful stuff, man. Loss of innocence, all of that in there. Loved it. Wow. love this episode. So moving into the final two, episode 7 is next. Okay, so I'm an idiot because the big demon warrior that has been around since episode 3 is not Nilo Angelo. It is a villain from Devil May Cry 5, Cavalier Angelo. Totally forgot about his existence, and that's my bad. But, you know, that's part of the fun, because in the beginning of this episode, we see the actual Nilo Angelo, who does not look nearly as cool as the Cavalier or how he looks in the games. Kind of disappointed by the way that he looks, I'm not gonna lie. Just some design choices don't work for me. Anyways, he is in the demon realm, and he was the one that gave his half of the amulet to the Bunny Man, and I'm assuming we're going to deal with him in the last episode, because we have yet to have any Virgil appearances whatsoever other than that, so I'm assuming it's going to happen. And also, Mundus was name-dropped and mentioned in this episode once again, so I'm assuming that the series is probably going to build up to a cliffhanger, and if they do actually have a season 2, we'll probably move into Mundus being the main antagonist. But this episode's sort of the opposite of the last that was filled with story. This one is filled with battle, and we get a lot of classic Devil May Cry Dante beating the ever-living shit out of a bunch of demons, which is my favorite thing in the world to do, and he just makes it look so damn fun, and I love that. There's a great sequence here where this portal is open, and he's sort of fighting back and forth in between the human world and the demon world, and that's how he ends up killing Cavalier, where he closes the portal on his head, chops it in half, which made me think, okay, that's obviously not Nilo Angelo, along with the beginning. Again, stupid, I don't know, I just missed that. Anyways, yeah, some good stuff here. I mean, Lady tries to go on her own. She's there at first. She does pull out her signature weapon for a little bit. It's quickly dismissed, but it's nice to see it just for a minute or two, I guess. And we get the revelation of who Bunny Man is. You know, he takes off his mask in front of her, talks about their history that we saw in the last episode, and it looks as though he does meet his demise at the hands of Dante at the very end, falling into the river below them. But, you know, whenever a character in any movie, TV show, or anime or whatever falls into water, whether there's blood or not, you know, until you see a body, until there's a confirmed death, you never really can tell with these things. We're also dealing with a series with demons and, you know, all sorts of crazy biological happenings, so who knows? I'm also suddenly aware of the irony of me wearing my Yu Yu Hakusho hoodie, because the storyline of this anime so far is pretty similar to the Chapter Black storyline of Yu Yu Hakusho. So if you know that anime very well, you know there's also a demon realm with portals and barriers that only particular demons can cross through, and Sensui is a human that gets tangled up with demons and sympathizes with them, and then wants to open up a portal to the demon world to let demons loose in the human world. All of that stuff is from Yu Yu Hakusho, and that's not a slight against this anime or anything, but now that I think about it, I got to imagine Adi Shankar or whoever was creative behind this is probably a Yu Yu Hakusho fan, because the similarities are astounding now that I think about it. Sensui is a way better villain than Bunny Man, though, although I do still appreciate Bunny Man's backstory. Anyways, moving into the final episode, if he is taken care of, I got to imagine we're going to be building up Virgil or Mundus or something like that. The last episode could really go anywhere, so gonna move into it, and then I'll wrap up my thoughts and tell you guys what I thought about the overall Season 1. All right, final episode of Season 1. I do have some thoughts, but first of all, just the general thing that happens in this episode is, of course, the Bunny Man is not dead, infuses himself with more demon blood, and becomes a hulking final boss that Dante and Lady have to team up to fight. The fight scene was great. Dante lost his little buddy Enzo and was able to activate his devil trigger once again. The fight goes in various stages, starts out on a rooftop, then goes to the helicopter, then goes to the bridge, and we do get the moment where Bunny Man opens up the portal to the demon realm, which I thought maybe that was going to lead in, maybe that's what Season 2 was going to be about, just the whole world overrun with demons. And, you know, it's quickly dismissed. And I thought that too. I was like, they're probably going to get rid of it right away. And they did. It's a little bit of a bummer, but there was a great moment where Dante realizes that Virgil must still be alive because he needs both of their blood to open up the portal. And once he realizes that, you know, he activates Devil Trigger, goes into full demon mode. Lady helps out, shooting the target of his device on his chest that was keeping the demon blood pumping through him to keep him existing, and Dante finishes off the job. But then the last 5 minutes of the episode really goes into a different direction than any of the games have ever gone into or what I expected this series to be. I already said when I reviewed the first episode, I was a little bit put off by the military government aspect of it because that's just not something I'm used to in Devil May Cry, but they're going full ham with it, and I guess I gotta give them props for doubling down and going along with that concept, because the vice president gets the device that's able to open portals. I don't think I mentioned there was a character working for the Bunny Man in that organization the entire time because his family was under threat. Well, the vice president just kills him and takes the device from him and decides to just pretty much nuke the demon realm. Like, he opens up the portal and he sends a bunch of missiles in, he sends the military in, and all of the refugees, all of the people that Bunny Man was trying to save just get annihilated. And in doing so, we see imagery of the American flag waving, we hear Green Day's American Idiot playing, and no doubt there is some social political commentary going on there. And it seems to be working for the most part. They go in there, they announce to the world demons are real, and in the final couple of minutes, we get some teases and cameos of what I imagine Season 2 is going to be. So, first of all, Dante, Lady betrays Dante at the end, taking him in under orders. What a bitch. I understand why she did it, but still. And so he's, like, out of commission. And then they go into the demon world, and we see cameos of characters. I believe one is Arius from Devil May Cry 2, and that surprised me because I have some nostalgic fond memories of Devil May Cry 2. It was the first Devil May Cry game I ever played, but notoriously it's one of the worst, and it pretty much is the worst in the franchise. So taking anything from Devil May Cry 2 is a little bit surprising. So if that was supposed to be Arius, that's interesting. And obviously there's other characters that we didn't get to see this season, like Trish, who is a main Devil May Cry girl, just was absent the entire season, especially if we're going to get into Mundus and all that. And that brings me to the end. So we finally see the real Nilo Angelo, the real Virgil, just tearing up shop, freeing some of the demons, and basically saying Mundus is here to save you, right? So, like, Mundus is the main villain of the first Devil May Cry game. He's the one that Sparta betrayed and locked away in the demon world, separating the realms. And Virgil is taken control and manipulated and used by Mundus as a tool, as an asset. But here we see Nilo Angelo turn back into Virgil, like physically. And I don't know if that's meant to imply that Virgil has a little bit more control over himself than would be in the traditional lore, or if this is going in a completely different direction. I'm not really sure, and I think that's the point. I think that it's a tease of what's to come, and if they do get a season 2, no doubt we are getting Virgil and we are getting Mundus, which is what I want to see the most. I do appreciate them doing their own original story, and I understand to make it a full fleshed out series, you can't exactly follow the games because the games are meant to be played, you know, one player, and a lot of it is just kind of like wandering around looking for items and stuff. Like, you need to have dialogue, you need to have a story. So I get them doing their own thing, and you know, it makes it, you know, so it's its own universe. It's like it's the Devil May Cry anime version. But because of that, there are also things that are lost that I wish they were able to do. For instance, the first time Dante uses his Devil Trigger is right after his fight with Virgil, and you know, it's this epic battle that's on top of this giant tower with the falling rain and everything, and it's such an iconic image that I would have loved to see in the anime, and we might get something similar to that in season 2, but it won't be the exact scene. So I just had to take particular things out of my head that they are doing things differently, and even with the whole like sympathetic side of particular demons, it's not necessarily a main component of the games. It's something that this anime is trying to do on its own, and I think it's working. Overall, I really did enjoy the experience with this anime, although there are some things that I wish were done differently, some design choices I don't like, and of course, I do prefer the storyline of the games, and all things being equal, I kind of wish it started with the, the Devil May Cry 3 prequel storyline, but with what they did, I think they did a pretty good job. I think the animation was pretty solid overall. I've been a little bit nitpicky of Netflix animation, but, I think it worked. And I think that, particularly for me, episode 2, 3, and 6 were the standouts. Everything that happened towards the finale I liked, but I just didn't like as much as I liked those 3 episodes in particular. So I do gotta say this was better than I expected it to be, especially when I heard it was gonna be, a Netflix animation. And I would say it's definitely worth watching. I guess, I don't know where I would rank it. Maybe like a 7.5 out of 10, somewhere around there. I think it's pretty solid. I think it could have been a little better in terms of story, but in terms of giving us, classic Devil May Cry antics, I think it did a pretty good job. Now, Dante did not get Ebony and Ivory, which is what I was thinking. Those are his signature guns that he uses, and throughout the whole season, he was using guns and breaking them, and so I assumed he would get his actual guns from the game at some point, but he never did. So I don't know. Maybe that's again for season 2. And also Lady, she only used her signature weapon once, which was disappointing. So there was that. And if they do make a season 2, obviously Kevin Conroy, rest in peace, will not be able to come back for the vice president, but he did a fantastic job in this series too. Johnny Young Bosch really did. I mean, he's always does great work. Like I said, the only thing that threw me off about it is because he already voices a character in the Devil May Cry franchise. So, it's just a little bit different to hear him as Dante. But that being said, and all things being equal, I think he did a pretty good job. I think he did a pretty solid job as the character. I'll just wonder what they do if they ever bring in Nero. You know what I mean? Like, is he going to voice 2 characters? He can't, because, the voice is exactly the same. So it's going to be like listening to Nero talk to himself, but different. Music choices were on point. We had that early 2000s nu metal vibe, which was great. And yeah, there's a lot of things about this to appreciate. Overall, I enjoyed the experience. I have some gripes, obviously. It's not perfect, but I think just maybe being starved of Devil May Cry content for quite a while and getting back into the games these last couple years, this is kind of what I needed. I needed this fix, and I enjoyed the experience. So let me know what you guys think about Devil May Cry Season 1 down below. By the way, if you don't know, there actually was already a Devil May Cry anime from the mid-2000s, which was pretty good from what I remember. So I kind of want to go back and rewatch that now also. Anyways, let me know what your thoughts down below. Please give this video a like, thumbs up, and a comment. Help it out in the algorithm. And I'd really appreciate it if some of you considered maybe the Patreon or channel memberships. I could use the help right now. But other than that, guys, thank you for watching this review, and I'll talk to you next time. Oh, and check out my review of the games, link down below. Peace.